All right, we're going to talk about Freemasonry, what it is, and hopefully help those of you who are kind of stuck in the fraternal tar pit to escape. Because I myself am coming up on 15 years in Freemasonry. We'll see if I make it that long, because I'm also I'm going to leave because of how kind of sloppy, stupid, and degenerate Freemasonry is today. But I speak with guys around the world. Turkey, Romania, Germany, Austria, Canada, Brazil, people all across the United States, and we find each other because we all sort of see how just how filthy and fake what people call Freemasonry is today. And I do speak for Freemasonry. I'm gonna tell you how it works. I'm gonna explain it to you so that you can hopefully understand it. And I'm gonna hopefully explain it to you in such a way that you can go and finally learn about it, right? I always hear about this my personal Masonic experience stuff, and I'll tell you right now, there's nothing more worthless than your personal Masonic experience. There is nothing more worthless than how you personally want to interpret Freemasonry. It's meant to be properly interpreted. It is not open to your personal interpretation. But we'll get to that in a moment, because I guess if you take one thing to heart, it's this, okay? Freemasonry, what it is, it's an academic religious tradition, okay? It began as a Christian confraternity, however many years ago, and I'll deal with that maybe in another talk. But what it is, again, it's an academic religious tradition, and it's based off of 3 books, all right? It's a Trinitarian Christian morality, okay? So you need the Bible. It's a Socratic philosophical allegory, so you need the dialogues. And it uses Euclidean geometric symbols, all right? So you need to be familiar with the elements. I can't tell you how many times I reference the elements and Master Masons don't know what it is. Oh, what's that? Yeah. These are Master Masons, okay? These are Masters of Masons, and they don't know the Book of Euclid's Elements, which, again, if they were any kind of master, this is supposedly what Masonry is founded off of, right? The 47th proposition of Euclid. Well, that's in this book. So if you don't know what this book is, you're not only not a Master Mason, you're not really a Mason at all. You're just another fake fraternal idiot, okay? Let me say that again for the sake of redundancy. Freemasonry is an academic religious tradition. It is a system of Trinitarian Christian morality, Socratic philosophical allegory, and Euclidean geometric symbols. That's what Freemasonry is, whether you like it or not. So again, you can have your own personal feelings about Freemasonry. They're worthless. They don't mean anything, and they're not helpful to yourself, and they're not helpful to anybody you're trying to teach. All right? And I bring that up because what people fail to realize today is none of you are actually Freemasons, okay? You're really a bunch of fakes. And for some of you, it's not your fault. And it's because you have to understand that there's a difference between the fraternity, which is sort of like a parasite or a disease that has infected Freemasonry, which is an actual tradition. So there's always a big, it's always just a confused tar pit of personal feelings when it comes to what Masonry is about and what it means and what the symbols are, blah, 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 okay? That's because the fraternity is garbage. It's run by a bunch of fundraising salesmen who really, they're some of the stupidest people you ever meet, okay? Grandmasters, 33rds, on and on and on it goes. These people are really stupid, okay? They're unhelpful. They're not going to teach you about Masonry. Their entire purpose in life is to just sell crap, okay? And that's why Masonry is so confusing today, because every idiotic Grand Master has decided he's going to waddle in and I'm going to make this change and make that change, and on it goes. And you can't recognize Freemasonry in what occurs today. I mean, it's a pathetic joke. But that's the second point I really want to stress. And I get it. I'm going on a little bit of a screed here. But it's so important. The fraternity is not Freemasonry. Okay? You guys are paying dues to sit in a lodge room to play tuxedo dress-up dinner party while you toady for Grand Lodge and read their minutes and stuff, okay? It's a joke. It's a pathetic joke. You're not Freemasons. You're kind of just idiots who pay dues to pretend you're Freemasons, but in tuxedos, okay? Hard as that may be to understand, that's the case, all right? I mean, I was reading a couple of articles the other night about 21st century Masonry and doing it in virtual reality. And then I read about, the Grand Lodge of Mixed Masons. It's Freemasonry Reimagined. And I mean, these are just the dumbest, most degenerate LARPs you could ever imagine. But these aren't new, okay? There are 3 degrees in Freemasonry. Everything outside of that is complete trash, okay? The Scottish Rite is a joke. It's a stupid system, okay? The York Rite, the same. It's just a waste of time. Rosicrucians, traditional observance, which is, I mean, it's just a bunch of closeted morons who, again, want to sit around and hold hands in dim-lit, lodge rooms in chains of union and do what? Right? Pretend that they're reliving their 18th century Enlightenment ideals. No, you guys are a bunch of idiots. You're not Freemasons. You're fakes, and you're kind of disgusting. I really want to drive that point home. Okay, the fraternity is not Freemasonry, and ultimately, if you wanted to make it work, you would have men start as 33rd degree, and they'd have to work their way back to actual Freemasonry, because then you could easily get rid of all the idiots, okay? All the stupid assholes who want to waste their time with Manly Hall and Albert Pike and, God help us, Aleister Crowley and all of these really stupid, worthless, dead-end pursuits. They can all get stuck in their rights, because that's what they do anyways. And ultimately you'd have, fully developed men who at least care about being educated, who would end up in the Blue Lodge. But what's worse is that these groups, the Scottish Rite, the Freemasonry Reimagined, they couldn't just have any merit or integrity and go start their own thing. For some reason, they needed to parasite off of Freemasonry, right? So again, it's confusing to me why you guys are so desperate to pretend you're Freemasons when you're too stupid to understand the 3 degrees to begin with. I don't know any Mason who actually studies the ritual, okay? Whenever I ask about Freemasonry, the first thing they do is jump into some of their pseudo-metaphysical, Wikipedia concepts, where they start talking about, again, Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall has nothing to do with Freemasonry, okay? His books are shit. At best, he's got half-assed poetry, okay? It's fun. It can be interesting to read as poetry or as some sort of fiction. But you get these guys, they really take Manly P. Hall seriously. They really take Albert Pike seriously. And I'm telling you right now, these are the most worthless people you can imagine when it comes to Masonry. Absolutely nice guys. In any other context, typically wonderful people. But with Freemasonry in particular, they are completely worthless. They're really stupid, and they're not going to help you get anywhere, okay? I bring up these 2 books. Okay, this is the English Emulation, and this is the California Cipher, which is Preston Webb is what it is, Preston Webb Masonry. And I use these 2 because these are the most widely used and known ritual systems. And of course, I know, there's some idiot out there who's like, well, that's not the one I use. I get it. Maybe you're in Pennsylvania and you use a different ritual. I've read it. It's great. Fine. But in general, even the guys in Pennsylvania should be familiar with what we're reading in either the English emulation or the California Preston ritual. And so the best way to start with understanding the ritual, okay, and this is what makes all the difference. This is your starting point, because of course these things are split into 3 degrees. Masonry wasn't, of course, 3 degrees to begin with. That was an evolution, so to speak. That's irrelevant, right? So I always get guys who want to talk to me about, they want to try to gotcha me, right? Like, oh, well, it wasn't always 3 degrees. Okay, good for you, buddy. That's completely irrelevant, because the way these things are developed is a mythos, a logos, and a tragedy, okay? And it's important that Masons understand what those terms mean and how they're used. I'm not going to get into it too much, because I mean, honestly, you really should already know this stuff. But the 2 pillars, so to speak, of Masonry, okay, it's the 7 theological virtues and the 7 liberal arts and sciences. And that 7 by 7 is important. It's symbolic, not in sort of a mystical way. It's pretty easy if you actually look it up. But mythos is, of course, where we get the word myth. And so it is it's a way of expressing truth that is not empirical. It's a way of expressing truth that is not rational, which is, of course, what logos is. Logos is a reasoned account. So in the first degree, we're getting the myth of Solomon's temple, right? And they're telling us about how it was built, and we're getting the 7 theological virtues, and all of that is tied together in a more spiritual, theological aspect. And then we move into the second degree, and now we're dealing with what? Cubits, and how things were ordered and arranged, and how everything was set up. So we're getting a reasoned account in the second degree, which balances our logos and our mythos framework here. And that's important because sort of the underlying idea of Freemasonry is this reason revelation binary, okay? And so what you'll get is you'll get the mythos with your virtues and your myth of Solomon's temple, which leads you to the logos, where you'll get the building of the temple. And of course, you're still in a myth, right? You're still in the Hiramic myth. But now, again, you're getting how things were built. You're getting the staircase. And so everything is more rational, as opposed to what you got in the first degree. And then it caps off with a tragedy, right? We get the Hiramic tragedy. And you'll always get these guys who want to say that Masonry is a mystery school. And in some sense, it does carry that sort of framework, because the what is it, the Eleusinian mysteries, that's how they would run. It was tripartite, and that's how the stories would be presented, either a mythos, a logos, and of course in ancient Greece you had comedy and tragedy. And so tragedy was the death of a hero. So in a comedy it was a happy ending, in a tragedy it's a sad ending, where something bad happens to someone good. And so that's what we get in Masonry. It's pretty simple if you look at it that way, okay? So your 3 degrees should be taken as 3 different experiences, where you get a myth, you get a logos, and you get a tragedy, all right? And what's interesting is every degree gives you what? An obligation, a lecture, and a charge. Okay, so here's our 3 by 3, right? It's 3 degrees, and then within each degree, it's broken further into 3 degrees. And so on it goes.